mountain, folks. Look at this place.
Max. Hi Max, great to have you here.
Incredible. I was going to do a walk and talk here, but it's just too windy, so I'll do it somewhere else. But I'll give you a look anyway. Amazing. Nice chemtrail up there. It looks melted or something. It's absolutely incredible, really. That was a mountain that I visited yesterday, folks. I actually wanted to do a walk and talk there, but as you could tell, it was far too windy. Something that I've been admiring from afar for quite a while, and my gracious guests actually took me there. Wonderful people, truly wonderful people that I'm staying with. But it's an incredible mountain, this grey stone, very smooth, rounded edges, almost looks like it was melted or something. Quite remarkable. Part of that mountain range that I've often showed you when I've been doing my walk and talks, and you've seen glimpses of that range. So it's all this same grey stone. It's quite an amazing mountain range. It's incredibly beautiful. And the whole range is that same smooth grey stone. It's incredible. But anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. Hello. Hello. How you doing? How you both doing, hey? A couple of donkeys to say hello. And yeah, the world is simply not what people think it is. It's been crazy the last week, and I keep saying that every show that I come on and do, every walk and talk. It's like, wow, things have just gotten crazy. And it just keeps happening. Of course, the big news is that there has been a ceasefire in Gaza, which is great to hear, but it's temporary, folks. Don't think that Israel is going to honour this ceasefire. They've already cooked up massive amounts of propaganda, and they're claiming now that, Israeli troops have withdrawn from Gaza. They haven't. They've withdrawn to a certain line, but they're actually still occupying over half of the Gaza Strip. They say they're going to continue that line of occupation until they feel safe. Which of course will be never, because we have this eternal victim mentality from these people. And they're already cooking up all sorts of propaganda. We've seen reports that even though they're getting their hostages back, they still need to free the people of Gaza from Hamas. And there's been trucks of Hamas filmed driving through town. These are, of course, Israelis with masks on. They're all in clean clothes, and all this propaganda shit that they cook up. This is all staged, folks. And there's also been Palestinians finding booby traps all over the place that the Israelis have left them. They've put bombs in children's toys. They've left bombs disguised as cans of unopened food. They've been known to do this. They were doing this In 2014 they were leaving bombs disguised as food and bombs in children's toys. This is a known Israeli tactic, and of course the Israelis are saying that this is what Hamas is doing. Hamas is going around and booby-trapping children's toys and leaving booby-trapped cans of food everywhere. Of course it's not. It's Israel that's done this. And they're still saying the death toll is 67,000 people. This death toll was a number they came up with in mid-2014, and it hasn't changed. The real death toll in Gaza is estimated to be around about 680,000. That's confirmed dead, including 380,000 children under the age of 5. If you look at it, children over the age of 5 included up to the age of about 16, I think the number is something like 471,000 or something like that, children that have been killed by Israel. Plus there's been around about 400,000 people who have been disappeared by Israel. So when you consider that, 680,000 people killed, including around about 470,000 children, then you add onto that 400,000 people that have been disappeared. That takes that up to around about 1.2, 1.3 million. Then you add on to that by reports there are at least 300,000 to 400,000 people still unaccounted for, missing under rubble, and that doesn't include the 400,000 people that Israel disappeared. That puts that figure up at around 1.4 to 1.6 million people who have disappeared from the Gaza Strip in the last 2 years. This whole notion that the death toll is still at 67,000 where it was in the middle of 2024 is ludicrous. It's an insult to the intelligence of any thinking human being. You know, we saw the video footage of people being marched out and arrested, huge groups of men. We saw the video footage of people in blue body bags being buried in mass graves as well. We've seen hundreds, thousands possibly of people being arrested. You know, and there's a hostage exchange going on, you know, like they're going to release the Israeli hostages, which they incidentally offered to release on October the 8th and October the 9th, directly after the incident in 2023. But Israel wouldn't accept the deal. They wanted the removal of Hamas to go along with the deal. So this was never about hostages. This was all a setup in order for Israel to be able to do this. So anyway, so there's a ceasefire. Gaza has been absolutely decimated, obliterated. It's just chaos over there, folks. They're letting food aid trucks in. Now, it's all really interesting. Like they're saying, yeah, with the hostage release, we'll allow food trucks in. But yet they were saying they were allowing food trucks in all the time. They were saying that aid wasn't restricted. And now they're saying they'll allow aid to go in because there's a hostage exchange happening. And Israel is releasing like old prisoners that they've had for years who have just been completely broken. Some of them actually did carry out bombings and things like that. They're not releasing any of the people they should be releasing, like, you know, the doctors that were illegally arrested during this whole Gaza genocide, all that sort of stuff. They're keeping all them in prison. And even the Israeli finance minister, Beelzebub Smokedick, has openly said that this is really just about hostage release and to get the approval of the West and to show the West that they're doing the right thing. Because Israel's facing so much backlash around the world for everything that it's done recently. And there's more of that as well. But he's openly said that as soon as the hostage release is over, they intend to go back there and eradicate Hamas. So, of course, we're seeing, like I said, all these video footage and all these photographs of Hamas on trucks and all this sort of stuff, saying, yes, they're still prevalent and they're still terrorizing the people of Gaza. We need to go in and help the people of Gaza. You know, it's all a ruse, folks. and Israel does not intend to honour this ceasefire. Israel, I think, has broken over 900 ceasefires in its history. So, it has no intention of honouring this one. This is all a ruse just to make it look like they're doing the right thing, because they've been exposed for so many things, folks. Look at this sky. Remember the other day I showed you the sky was so clear and beautiful? Have a look at it today. It's full of chemtrails. The whole sky is covered in chemtrails. Just everywhere. Like everywhere, right around the whole sky is chemtrails. Unbelievable, folks. This is what's happening in Europe. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing has been a ruse, but at least there is some sort of a ceasefire at the moment. My friend Nadal's house is off limits. He's not allowed to move back there because it's in the still occupied zone. It's in Beit Hanun. But he sent me a picture of what his house looks like. It's just been reduced to ash. He's lost all of his pictures of his grandparents, and his whole life basically has gone. And yeah, that's the state of the situation in Gaza. And Israel's getting so much flack because, man, I really hoped it would be the last time I talked about this on the last show, but I've got to bring up one more time the whole Charlie Kirk incident. It's become painfully obvious that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Now, his whole security team were Israelis. There's so much on the foot. There's so many videos out now of showing, weird behaviour all around the Charlie Kirk shooting, all the people who were surrounding him, hand signals, just the way they cleaned up the mess, people putting things in their pockets, and it was, like so staged and planned to happen. And personally, I think Charlie Kirk is probably dead, because it would definitely suit them better if he was dead. But I think he was groomed for all this to happen, or it was all set up so that if he ever did go astray, they totally had him. I mean, he was their puppet for a long time, and I think maybe he was a little naive or something, but he woke up to what's going on. I mean, I think he probably lived pretty sheltered in as much as the information that he was given. I showed you a video of him when someone pointed out that there were Christian churches all through Iran and that everybody lived happily and there was no problem between any religions in Iran, and he was quite shocked to find out that information. And just the other day, you might have seen it, Candace Owens released some text messages between Charlie Kirk and a member of TPUSA. Not that I trust Candace Owens, but it's relevant that these text messages were released. And a lot of people are saying they're fake, but basically Charlie was saying, listen, he's going to have to leave the Israeli camp and stop supporting the Israeli cause. And he was actually thinking of getting Candace Owens on his show to discuss her views of Israel. And, I mean, Charlie Kirk was influencing the entire Gen Z crowd. If Charlie Kirk had turned and actually started questioning Israel and pointing out the crimes of Israel, he could have turned the entire Gen Z mentality against Israel. He had the power to do that, and that cannot be ignored. And a lot of people saw these text messages and thought, oh, this is fake. But then the guy in TPUSA actually came forth and said, yeah, that's my screenshot, and I'm responsible for those text messages getting out there.
I want to take the start of this show to address some of the things that have been going around on public, namely about a group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. And I just want to address it head on because, that was a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic. And I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friend's trust in that way.
So that's really interesting, folks. That was the conversation that was being had between Charlie Kirk and Tippy USA, and of course all this is monitored. And then 48 hours later, Charlie Kirk was dead. It stands to reason that Israel killed him because he had such an incredible amount of influence. So yeah, that's just another thing. And hopefully that's the last time I'll have to talk about it, and the fact that, Bibi Netanyahu went on all of those media reports instantly saying, no, Israel isn't responsible for shooting Charlie Kirk. And there was a massive social media blitz as well, all over X and TikTok and everywhere, of all of these Israeli stooges saying, no, we had nothing to do with killing Charlie Kirk. It was the left, Which of course just empowers government and the whole concept that there's a difference between left and right and all that sort of bullshit. So, it seems pretty obvious that Israel did this, and it's pretty obvious to see why. And I think that's another reason why they're kind of feigning this ceasefire in Gaza as well, because like I said, it's not going to continue. They'll find a way. They'll get one of their operatives over there to shoot a Qassam rocket into Israel or some bullshit. They'll figure it out. Someone will get shot. Something will freaking happen. And of course Israel will be behind it, and it will give them the excuse they need to go in there and free the people of Gaza from Hamas. Like I said, we're already seeing all of these stories coming out of how Hamas is now rounding up any sympathizers and killing them and planting bombs in children's toys and all sorts of bullshit that Israel has actually done themselves. And, it's easy to see why all this is happening, folks, and why they've feigned a ceasefire right now. Everyone's kind of forgetting about Charlie Kirk. Well, some people are, some people aren't. Because there's so much other stuff going on. It's been remarkable to see how all this is played. But Israel is also now saying, again, they're saying that, we've got to watch out for Iran because Iran is developing a nuclear weapon. I mean, this is just only a month ago that they tried this, and then they went in there, well, probably more than a month ago, but just the other day, they went in there and they bombed the shit out of Iran because they said they were destroying their nuclear facility, and now Bibi Netanyahu is again saying that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon that's going to reach the United States. And he's saying that, there could be a nuclear attack against, New York or even Mar-a-Lago.
Iran is developing now ballistic missiles that are intercontinental ballistic missiles for 8,000 kilometer range. What does that mean? They add another 3,000 kilometers, and they've got under their atomic guns, the New York City in target, Washington, Boston, Miami, Mar-a-Lago. Okay? So that is a very great danger. You don't want to be under the nuclear gun of these people who are not necessarily rational and who chant death to America.
Yeah, this is Israel basically threatening to stage a terror attack on the United States. And there's even rabbis that are kind of suggesting the same thing.
They think we're bluffing. We go forward with it. We have the right to use any and all weapons in our disposal, academically speaking, nuclear weapons. And I'm tired of using euphemisms. I'm tired of saying, well, we have something, in the basement, but we won't be the first to introduce nuclear weapons in the Middle East. It's enough already. I said, no, let me bring you back to October 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. And what happened? An A-4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings, and we told the Americans to take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway.
So in other words, we threatened their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that. And so he said, is this what you want us to threaten now? I said, absolutely, except this time I want us to go forward with it if necessary.
Yeah, these people are incredibly evil, folks, and they're getting backed into a corner, and they need to basically continue the process because they want to be backed into a corner. They want the whole world to see them as evil as they are because they have all the weapons now. They have control of all the systems. Most people are carrying cell phones around with them. These cell phones can be set off like a bomb, the same as they did with the pagers. Don't think this can't happen, because it can, folks. I warned people about their cell phones being a bomb back in 2019. Like, if they really want to shut down the West, they've got control of all of the communication systems, all of the banking infrastructure, so much stuff. They just have to take out key locations, knock down the internet in certain places. All the servers are in, all in one place. So, well, most of the big ones. So they could easily shut down communications. They could shut down everything. They've got control of all sorts of stuff. So now they're playing their big card. And they want the world to see them for what they are, because they want people to hate all Jews, because they want all the diaspora Jews that are all around the world to come back to Israel, because they need the population there so that they can expand, have the excuse to expand, and they can also continue to build their army against the rest of the world. And they have no intention of stopping the war in Gaza. Well, it's not a war, it's a genocide. They have no intention of stopping it, folks. You watch, something will happen to make it continue. Actually, I released a short video the other day I posted on my BitChute channel and on YouTube as well. They allowed me to upload the last show onto YouTube, folks. I was quite surprised. And then I uploaded a little 16-minute video to both YouTube and BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble called Practical Idealism in Action, the Kalergi Plan. 16-minute video. I'm not speaking on it or anything. I just put it up there. I thought, well, this is information people need. And it'll also serve as a test as to what they're really going to let me get away with on YouTube. But it stayed on YouTube. And in that video, I actually had what sounds like a New York cop. He's a member of the Israeli police force, volunteer police force, and he's also in the Army Reserves. And I included what he had to say about his intentions and the intentions of Israel when they go into Gaza. And I also had the author, Chris Hedges. I think Chris Hedges wrote a book called Technocracy Rising a few years ago, which was quite interesting. I think I saw an interview with him about that book. And he was right, because that's what we're seeing. But I don't know a lot about him, except for, I think, that book. And he was reading from an information leaflet. You know, when Israel says, oh, look, we drop information leaflets on the people in Gaza to let them know we're going to be, coming into the area and, removing Hamas. And so we want them to move to a safe zone. And that's basically what they tell us that they're doing. We're just dropping these information leaflets because we care. And we don't want to see civilians hurt. And I've said to you for months, this is all just psychological damage. They go and they warn you. They tell you what they're going to do because they want to move you around and just keep having you running and just moving away from wherever you are, because there is nowhere safe. They'll tell you it is safe, then they'll bomb you on the way there. They'll bomb you when you get there. Then they'll tell you to move to another safe zone, and they'll do the same thing because they just like tormenting people. They're incredibly cruel. And Chris Hedges got hold of one of the information leaflets that they drop on the Palestinian people, and I included that in this short video that I released the other day. But I'm going to put it in here for you, what this cop said about what his intentions are when they go to Gaza, and Chris Hedges reading out from an Israeli information leaflet that is dropped on the people of Gaza. Check this out. Just check out this mentality.
My name is Mickey. major in the IDF reserves. And I'm also a volunteer police officer in the Israeli police. Anybody who's going to be left in Gaza when we get there, all y'all are going to die. Each and every one of you. Your house is going to be demolished. Your family ain't going to have no place to live. Better start running. So I suggest you leave Gaza and you never ever return. That's our territory now. You're done there. Leave or die.
The Israelis demand of the Palestinians, run for your lives. Run from Rafah, the way you ran from Gaza City, the way you ran from Jabalia, the way you ran from Deir al-Bala, the way you ran from Beit Hanun, the way you ran from Han Yunis. Run, or we will kill you. We will drop VBU 39 bombs on your tent encampments and set them ablaze. We will spray you with bullets from our machine gun-equipped drones. We will pound you with artillery and tank shells. We will shoot you down with snipers. We will decimate your tents, your refugee camps, your cities, your towns, your homes, your schools, your hospitals, and your water purification plants. We will rain death from the sky. Run for your lives again and again and again. Pack up the few belongings you have left. Blankets, a couple of pots, some clothes. We don't care how exhausted you are, how hungry you are, how terrified you are, how sick you are, how old you are, how young you are. Run, run, run. And when you run in terror, the one part of Gaza, we will make you turn around and run to another, trapped in a labyrinth of death, back and forth, up and down, side to side, 6, 7, 8 times. We toy with you like mice in a trap, then we deport you so you can never return or we kill you. Let the world denounce the genocide. What do we care? The billions in military aid flows unchecked from our American ally, the fighter jets, the artillery shells, the tanks, the bombs, an endless supply. We kill children by the thousands. We kill women and the elderly by the thousands. The sick and the injured without medicine and hospitals die. We poison the water. We cut off the food. We make you starve. We created this hell. We are the masters. Law, duty, a code of conduct. They do not exist for us. But first, we toy with you. We humiliate you. We terrorize you. We revel in your fear. We are amused by your pathetic attempts to survive. You are not human. You are creatures, Untermensch. We feed our lust for domination. Look at our posts on social media. They have gone viral. One shows soldiers grinning in a Palestinian home with the owners tied up and blindfolded in the background. We loot rugs, cosmetics, motorbikes, jewelry, watches, cash, gold, antiquities. We mock your misery. We cheer your death. We celebrate our religion, our nation, our identity, our superiority by negating and erasing yours. Depravity is moral. Atrocity is heroism. Genocide is redemption.
Yeah, that really speaks volumes, folks, as to what their intentions are for the people of Palestine. And like I said, this isn't going to stop with this ceasefire. In other news, they're saying there's a new COVID strain coming, folks, so you better watch out for that as well. Unbelievable. The government shutdown, I think, is still continuing, which is again just an excuse to move everything over into AI and close down more departments. Trump's now saying that he wants to put troops on the ground in Gaza as well, just to oversee what's going on, like 200 troops or something on the ground in Gaza. He's also sort of working to have red states attack blue states and blue states attack red states. Keep this divide and conquer happening. Keep people distracted with everything during the collapse that's coming and the massive takeover that is happening around the world, the shift into AI, the shift into digital currency, the shift into everything we've been warning you about for so long. That's the plan, folks, and that's what he's doing. You know, in the US, you know, they're saying they care about the country and all that sort of stuff, and you know, they're saying Trump is the hero because he stopped the war in Gaza. In the last couple of years, the US has funneled somewhere between 31 and $34 billion to Israel in weapons. So that's hardly stopping the war. I mean, the whole US economy for the last 2 years has been running off the genocide of the people of Palestine. Because all of this money, all this 31 to $34 billion that Israel gets in weapons, what happens is the United States basically just gives them a blank check and says, well, here's a check, you can sign up to $34 billion on this check, and you can use it to buy weapons, but you have to buy them from US companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all of these sorts of people. So that's what's keeping the US economy afloat, which is why they couldn't really end any of this before they did. Why they want to keep the war in Ukraine going as well, because it's the same thing. When you lend these countries money for weapons, they're committed to spend that money in the United States, and that's what keeps the United States economy flowing. You know, and it's what keeps you broke. There's no reason for any of these wars to be happening except that Israel wants all of these wars. These are very evil people, folks. And like I said, I showed you on the last report, you know, they don't worship the same God as you do.
The greatest lie humanity tells itself is that we have outgrown human sacrifice. We call it by different names now and make our offering to different gods. We offer young men we call soldiers, as if the designation means that their mothers cry less when they die. We call masses of humanity collateral damage and turn our eyes away from the pictures of their lifeless bodies as we sip our morning coffee. And the truth is, we don't do it because we are heartless. We do it because we believe that it is necessary for the world to keep running. We do it because we believe that the gods whose favor we so desperately seek, freedom, security, prosperity, flourishing, that they demand blood as the price of their favor. We do it because we cannot see any other choice. And maybe that's why we read the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, on Rosh Hashanah. Because the story of the Akedah isn't about inconceivable obedience. When Abraham prepares to sacrifice Isaac, he is just accepting the same bargain of blood we still accept today, that some need to die for the world to flourish.
All of this is about blood sacrifice. All wars are about blood sacrifice. I mean, back in the so-called pagan days, they used to sacrifice virgins and sacrifice people. They wanted blood for the gods. And you notice in that little talk, she said, the gods that we seek favor from. You know, and they want peace and prosperity and harmony and abundance and flourishing, all this sort of stuff. But they want it for the Jewish people, not for everybody else. And they need to sacrifice blood to get that to happen, because this is the destruction of Amalek. This is how it all works, folks, and this is what they're doing. This is why when soldiers go to war, they have to wear uniforms. You can't be caught out of your uniform if you're on the battlefield. You need to be in the uniform. You need to be dressed in all of the esoteric symbols, the five-pointed stars, the certain types of hats, the braid on the uniforms, the gold ropes, the medals that they give them, the gold buttons, all of this sort of stuff, the stripes on the legs, all these sorts of things are, I don't want to say demonic, but they are people who are dressed for sacrifice. You've got to be dressed for the ritual in order for the ritual to work. And so this is why all armies and all soldiers all around the world, you know, with slight variations in the uniform, but basically they all wear the same thing. They all wear 5-pointed stars. They all wear gold braids and red ribbons and red and gold stripes, and they all have 3 stripes on their arms, or 2 stripes on their arm, or 1 stripe on their arm, or they're just a little pleb with no stripes that's sent off there to die. You know, so it's all the same thing. You've got to be dressed for the ritual in order for the ritual to work, and what all war is about is blood sacrifice. Getting people from one country to go and kill people from another country, people that they've never met and have no problem with whatsoever, and they're told to do it in defense of the state, the nation. Remember what I said about the real word Israel, what it means? Israel is a belief in one true God. That's all it is. It's a mindset. If you believe in one true God, you are Israel. It has nothing to do with the Jewish people. The Jewish people don't even really exist. All those words were combined by King James: Israelite, Yehudi, Israel, Judean, Judahite. All of this sort of stuff was combined into Jew by King James in the Bible. And the word nation was changed into Gentile. So it used to be, before all that happened, it used to be those who believe in one true God, or those who follow the law and the dictates of the nation. And all of these people who are getting dressed in all of these military sigils and going out there and killing for the state are all doing so in support of the nation. That's how perverted it's been done. And they're calling it Christianity when it's no such thing. Chemtrails everywhere, folks. Yeah, just everywhere. But anyway, so that's what's going on in the world, folks. New COVID strain coming. Ceasefire in Gaza, though it's very temporary. And Trump's, of course, claiming that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for it because some other warmongering woman got it, you know, who hasn't done anything to deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. He's been promoting war all over the place. And, I mean, Trump even saying that his peace plans are working. Well, there's peace negotiations happening in Egypt right now. So what's that all about? Up these chemtrails, folks. They're just everywhere. Look at them. Look at this stuff. Just insane. But yeah, there's talks of peace talks and peace negotiations in Egypt. So how is Trump's peace plan really doing anything? You've got to ask that question. They've also released most of the Gaza flotilla prisoners, by the way. Well, of course they released Greta because she's a celebrity. I believe there's still 6 people from the flotilla that they've kept in there. I believe they all have Arabic names. Well, that was the last thing I heard anyway, was that there's 6 people they've kept. So imagine the torture that they're being subject to, because these are absolutely brutal places, folks. And as you can tell from that talk of Chris Hedges, you know, I mean, they take people, prisoners, in there with no charge or trial, and they basically torture them for years and years on end until they absolutely break them. Sometimes they release them, sometimes they don't. But they like to keep them alive for as long as possible and prolong the torture for as long as possible because they absolutely love it. That's just what they get off on more than anything. I mean, some of the reports that I've heard of what happens to children in Palestine, I mean, I haven't been able to personally confirm any of them. But what happens to Palestinian children, I mean, that are taken to Israel? I mean, children are literally taught to hate Arabs. All Israeli children are taught to hate Arabs.
מה תהיה כשתהיה גדול?
חייל.
ומה תעשה?
ניתן עדיף ונראה תאבים.
מצוין.
Yeah, that's just lovely. And I've heard reports of people that even have a little cage with an Arab child in it in their home, and they teach their child to hate this little creature in the cage, you know. And I've seen some videos that are horrific, of children, Palestinian children that have been kept underground, and what these children turn out like. They're just like little animals. I mean, I've got a couple of these videos, but I can't confirm them, and they're just stuff that was leaked, and they're horrendous to see children in this state. But I mean, I can't even confirm them, and how do you even know if everything's what it appears to be these days? Because AI can get really amazing results. But I've got some very disturbing videos of what appears, one that appears to be a child that was kept underground, and some of the stories that I've heard are absolutely horrendous of what these Israelis actually get up to. You know, and again the question, you know, is it just Israelis? Is it just Zionists? Or is this right at the heart of all Jewish beliefs? I've often said, I mean, if you don't support what Israel is doing, and you don't support, you know, the destruction of Amalek and everything that Judaism is based on, then why do you call yourself a Jew? It's an interesting question, folks. It deserves asking. And when you look at the fact that these people have been kicked out of 109 countries, you know, 1,030 times over the last 2,000 years, well, that's long before Zionism was ever invented, folks. There's the horses. I don't even want to talk about Jews this talk. It's just weird how that works. I didn't even want to talk about this sort of stuff. But it's hard not to when you look at everything that's happened in the world. I mean, the whole concept of white guilt and the destruction of Amalek, the destruction of all of our civilizations, you know, diversity. And diversity is such a stupid concept. I mean, it cancels itself out. They say diversity is our strength. That's the punchline, or yes, the tagline in all countries. You know, the British say it, diversity is our strength. They say it in Australia. And we're not going to slow immigration because diversity is our strength. And who's behind the immigration? Well, again, it's all being run by Jewish people. And this is what Charlie Kirk was figuring out as well. All of the immigration is being run by Jewish people, and it's not just Zionists. It's all Jewish people from all Jewish associations are supporting and funding mass immigration.
Last week, Hayes organized a letter signed by over 1,200 rabbis. Can you imagine getting 1,200 rabbis to agree on one thing? But agree they did, and what they agreed was to ask our elected officials not to halt or even to limit the United States Refugee Admissions Program. And it's not just Hayes. Jewish organizations of all kinds across the spectrum of Judaism are issuing statements in support of refugees. These have included the Orthodox Union, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, and so many of the Jewish organizations that you heard are co-sponsors of this event this evening.
Yeah, it's all of them, folks. That's what I mean. I mean, you don't want to hate all the Jews, but what is all this about if not the destruction of the West? And they admit it. I mean, they say it's a very good thing that it's happening. And they totally celebrate it because they've often said, like, Islam is the broom of Israel.
Vous allez le payer très cher, les Européens. Mais à un point, vous n'avez même pas notion de quoi on parle. Et vous n'aurez pas où fuir. Parce que tout le mal que vous avez fait à Israël, vous le paierez au centuple. Quand l'Italie disparaîtra, quand Édom, c'est pour ça que le QG de la chrétienté qui vient de Esav se trouve là-bas, quand cet endroit-là disparaîtra, et c'est ce que veut faire l'islam, l'islam c'est le balai d'Israël, sachez-le.
They admit that this is what they want to do. And they say diversity is our strength, but diversity cancels itself out because with the type of diversity they're promoting, they're not, you know, bringing in cultures that are keeping their own culture. For example, like if you had immigrants coming into your country, you had, you know, a bunch of immigrants coming in and they create Chinatown, and there's this little area where there's, a few 100,000 of them or a few tens of thousands of them living, and they create a little version of China so you can go and visit their culture, but they keep their culture and they integrate with your culture. That's fine. You could have a little Persia town, you could have a little this town and a little that town. Of all these people who come along, they bring their culture there, and you can go to that little area or town if you want to experience that culture, and that might give you a taste to actually want to go and visit their country and experience that culture properly. I mean, these are fine, these sorts of things, You have people who actually integrate into your society, but they keep their culture going in a little area of town, and we're all friendly. But what they're doing, they're just bringing in masses of migrants everywhere, and they're not integrating them into your society. And they're not anybody who's bringing any culture into your country. They're just bringing in rape gangs and all sorts of shit. All middle-aged fighting men. They're not bringing in any women. Very, very few. Most of it is men, because they want the men to interbreed with white women. So this diversity, after a generation or 2 generations at most, will be completely mixed race, and there'll be no diversity. It'll be complete sameness. Hello, how are you doing? What's happening? What's happening? Look who's come to see me, folks. How you doing? What are you doing over this side of the fence? I'm sure you're supposed to be back over there with your mum. Hey? Your mum's calling you. These are little horses, folks. They're tiny little things. Like he's only up to my waist there. Like his back is up to my waist. His head is up to my chest. These tiny little ponies. But yeah, total distraction, folks. Total distraction there. But yeah, cool little horse. Come back over here where your mum is. You jump over this fence, did you? Come on. No, he's going to hang over there. You might have thought I had some food for him. You going to go back and see your mum? You going to go back over and see your mum or what? Hey? Hey? What's the camera here? What's going on? Hey, what's going on? You going to come back over here and see your mother or what? He's just going to hang here for the moment. But anyway, you're with the concept of diversity. You end up with no diversity at all. You end up with one species, one race, who has no roots, no national identity, no national pride. No national identity, no national pride, no racial heritage. So no racial pride. You end up with a completely directionless race of people. The people that are being born into this society, the only world they know is digital. They just know they need ID. They need a digital ID. They need to think within certain parameters and do certain things and behave in certain ways. They need to work. They need to pay to be alive. And they'll essentially be born and live forevermore as slaves, not knowing where they came from at all. Through it all, European culture will be destroyed. And all the old buildings will be knocked down. They'll be destroyed. Every trace, every history, every memory of there ever being true racial and cultural diversity on this earth will be erased. And you'll have those people and you will have those who consider themselves a master race running the world from the state of Israel. That's their plan.
It's very clear that the Jews want to exterminate the European race. Richard Coudenhove Kalergi, who is the father of the European Union and who was funded by the Jewish bankers Rothschild and Warburg. Now, this man wrote a book called Praktischer Idealismus in 1925, in which he stated that the Jews are a master race and that the Jews can only assume the throne of rule over the world by weakening the European race, and that the means to weakening the European race would be to dissolve all the European nations, destroy all their cultural heritage and their national traditions, and replace that with the European Union, and then to invite in Africans, Middle Easterners, and Asians to dilute the blood of Europeans through miscegenation to the point where they became a degenerate mixed race. And then at that point, these people would no longer have any sense of nationhood, and the ancient Jewish messianic prophecies of world rule out of Jerusalem, with Jews maintaining their nationhood and their national status, it would fulfill the Jewish messianic prophecies that the Jews could then rule the world. And this was completely in line with what Nikolai had written in 1917 and has manifested itself recently with the invasion of immigrants from Africa, from the Middle East, and from Asia into Europe, America, and Australia. And they are deliberately setting about to...
They need to bring all the Jews home to do this. And this has been a really long-going plan, folks. I mean, even when you look at the last culture that we had, that people will call Tartaria, whether all this is real or not. I mean, all we know is that which exists within living memory, folks. But you look at all of that culture, the buildings, the stuff, the knowledge, the stuff that was displayed in the World Fair and in the turn of the last century, Chicago World's Fair, I think it was. I mean, all that sort of stuff was absolutely incredible. The buildings that we built, that old culture built, we can't do any of that sort of stuff. The world has got more and more bland. Through all modern architecture, it's got pretty lights and all that sort of stuff. But what does it mean? It's all just pretty lights. It's not pretty buildings. It's not stuff that was created with design and intelligence and an eye for beauty, a purpose of beauty. It's all just stuff that's functional, that looks pretty, as long as the electricity's on. So yeah, we've had years, probably centuries, of complete social breakdown. And you just keep coming and saying hello, don't you? This force is very friendly. We've had centuries of complete cultural breakdown on this earth, or social breakdown. The social structure of our societies is broken down. Now, what we had was fantastic. What we had, a couple of centuries ago was fantastic. Free energy, all of the things that we had, and we know that this was a reality. If we didn't have to pay for energy, we could be absolutely free. And it's the fact that we are so dependent upon energy, and we've been shifted away from that energy, away from that social state that we had, to a situation where we've got to pay for energy, and it's this pollutive, horrible stuff that we've been taught to hate and fear. So we've got to put up wind farms and do all sorts of crap like this, which is all bullshit. It's all distraction. There is no energy that comes from wind farms. I mean, it's all of it such a distraction. But we've been pulled away from real energy. So we lost our complete knowledge of all of this stuff, and that broke down what social structure we had back in that world. We've been led into this world now. And now all the races are being bred together through the Kalergi plan, which was the plan all along, practical idealism. This was the plan all along, folks. All the wars between East and West that they're still pushing, and I have no doubt whatsoever that there will be some type of false flag event happen in the United States that will be blamed on Iran. Of course, it will be Israel who did it, and this will be Israel's way of pushing America into a war with Iran, pushing a war of East versus West, and interbreeding what's left, you know. And while they're doing all this interbreeding, this is what it's all about. See, they get this race, and I've got nothing wrong with race mixing, folks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, someone meets a beautiful Chinese woman, they get married and have kids. There's nothing wrong with that. Race mixing, the way it's always been, like I said, if you're going to have Chinatown somewhere, you're going to have Filipino towns somewhere, you're going to have Serbia towns somewhere, whatever, there's going to be elements of that end up breeding with the local society, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when it's done on an industrial scale, where you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fighting age, young, virile, African and Arab men being pushed into European countries who rape, pillage and plunder. And suddenly the race that you have come out of that is well, it's all interbred. This is mixed breeding being done on an industrial scale in order to remove the national identity and the ethnic identity of all races, especially white people. But not just white people, it's everybody. They want everybody breeding together. And once this is done, and you've got this whole race of people who have no national identity, no national pride, no sense of anything really, don't even really know where they came from. They have no real history because it's a race that's virtually just been created through mixed breeding. It's like creating a new dog breed, you know. Once you've got these people and they're born into this whole digital control system that's being put in place, and they don't know any other world, they don't know about free energy, they don't know about any of this sort of stuff, all you got to do is switch the power off and they're gone. They will turn on each other. They have no history. They all hate each other. It's just going to be chaos, and it's a complete social breakdown that's been done deliberately over centuries and centuries. And that's why they don't care if people see it, because this is their big end game. They seriously believe they've won if people don't wake up. A lot of people are waking up, but unfortunately they're doing the wrong thing. They're turning their hatred towards the entire Jewish people in mass. And like I said, it's difficult not to do that because you see what these people have done. And it's no joke, folks. I mean, these people have been responsible for so much bad stuff, and no one really knows how to deal with it because of white guilt and all this sort of crap. But what we've got to understand is that we ultimately do have our own countries and our own nations and our own national identity. As much as I don't like the concept of the state, to many people this national identity is who they are. Like the Australians are Australians, and they are happy to be that way, and they want to maintain that. You know, they're proud of their culture, same as Americans. Although America is a total melting pot of all races now, and that's been done deliberately. All of them have been taught to maintain their own national pride, even though they don't live in that nation anymore. You know, when they move to America, they should all become Americans and be happy to be that way. That's the way it should be in any country where there's immigration. I mean, you don't immigrate to, you know, Croatia because you want to stay American. You immigrate to Croatia because you love the culture and you want to become Croatian. You want to integrate with the culture. The reason you come here is because you love the place and you want to be part of it. It should be the same thing with any country. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of people just, you know, fleeing war zones, which is why Israel's gone out and bombed all these Middle Eastern countries. So people are just running from these countries to Western countries because the Western countries are the ones who aren't getting bombed. People say, why are all these Arab people and all these Muslims coming to our countries? Well, it's because your government is bombing their countries. If you could stop bombing their countries, well, maybe they'd all go home. Wouldn't that be a great thing to do? Get that $31 to $34 billion that America has spent on Israel in the last 2 years, and all the $10 million a day aid that it sends to Israel. Wouldn't it be great to just kick Israel out of the United States, look, all dual Israeli citizens, remove them all from the United States government, send them back to Israel, send them wherever, send them to Oblast. I've often said that, send all these people to Jewish autonomous Oblasts, a country created for them in, I think, 1929, ratified in 1932 or 1934, something like that. And it's twice the size of Palestine. They could all go and live there, okay? But they're not going to do that. They won't tell you that that's the other only Jewish state that exists in the world, Jewish autonomous Oblast that exists in eastern Russia. But anyway, we could send them all there, or send them wherever, whatever, but get them out of the US government. Take all of that money that you're using to send to Israel in aid and use that money to rebuild the civilizations in all of the Arab countries that the US and Israel have bombed. All of the US has bombed on Israel's behalf, because that's what's happened. Rebuild all these countries, get their economies back up and running, run it as if, you actually care about people. If you're going to claim you're a democracy, then make it for the whole world, have a democratic system across the world. Not that I like democracy, but okay, let's just have a fair go for everybody. So why don't you just spend all that money that you spend on Israel on rebuilding all of these Muslim countries that you've decimated, and then send all these migrants back to their own countries, which is where they would much prefer to be had you not turned them all to rubble and ruin. It's hard to know what words to use when you describe all this, because, I don't respect democracy. Democracy is a terrible form of government. Personally, I prefer anarchy, where people actually govern themselves, but unfortunately most people aren't educated enough to be able to do that. They don't have a good enough grasp on reality to be able to do that. So, we don't see a lot of that. How long has this been going? 48 minutes, so that's not too bad. As you can see, I'm still in Croatia in the fig farm. But I just want you to think about all that sort of stuff. This long social breakdown that's happened over generations, and where it's actually heading to. And what do you do about it? Well, you can't just hate all the Jews and chase them out of your country, as much as it feels good to do that, because that's what the Zionists want. And I'm sure there are Jews out there who disagree with all this sort of stuff. But again, you get to that question. Well, if you disagree with all this sort of stuff, then why do you call yourself a Jew? Because the root core of the faith, the purpose of the faith, is to bring about the destruction of Amalek. If you don't believe that should happen, then why do you still call yourself a Jew? Because it's a religion, it's not a race, it's a faith. Interesting concept. But you've got to see that there's a lot of them that don't particularly agree with what Israel's doing, because Israel wants to bring about its end times prophecy. It wants to bring about its Messiah. This horse just keeps following me around. Wants to bring about its Messiah. Oh, you like that, don't you? Scratch on the back, yeah? Oh, yeah, you like that, huh? Yeah. You like that. Interesting little creature. He's a stallion, this little guy. So you're going to have to move him away from his mum soon. He's pretty willful. He's about the age of maybe a 17-year-old kid, so he's feeling pretty invulnerable at the moment. But he keeps distracting me, folks. But yeah, the people of Israel want all the Jews to come home. What we've got to do is call our governments out, folks. There is marches to express a loss of confidence in the Australian government. This needs to happen all over the world. You need to express a loss of confidence in your government. You know, we're in such a weird situation because, you know, as much as I would prefer the concept of anarchy and self-governance, you need to have people educated enough to be able to comprehend what that is, what true freedom means. I don't mean indoctrinated, I mean real education, like a proper education system. And unfortunately, you need some form of government for that to happen. You need some sort of transitional mechanism to lead the world back to a point of safety where people are educated enough to know how to look after themselves. So we're in a really tricky situation. I mean, what's going to come of it? I mean, if you listen to what Jeff's been saying, Jeff Berwick, then we're heading for a major financial collapse, and I can see that happening, absolutely. We've been waiting for this for years. Interesting, Bitcoin hit 125,000 the other day. Gold is at an all-time high. Everything is at an all-time high, which means it's probably going to have a really big crash soon. So people need to be prepared for that as well. This horse just will not leave me alone. He keeps following me around, folks. A cute little fella. So there's all of that coming. So how do we get out of this? I mean, how do we change the direction we're going? Well, in many ways, I don't think we can. You know, Israel has played its hand so openly and so blazingly that if it gets to a point where people start actually pushing back against Israel, they have all sorts of technology at their control. They can bring down countries basically at the push of a button, an entire country. I mean, I'm sure they've got programs in all Apple phones and Android phones whereby they can just explode all of them simultaneously if they wanted to. Everything that contains a lithium battery contains a lithium bomb. You have to understand this to be a fact, because it is. They could literally bring down society if they wanted to. I mean, I've talked about the Samson option before. Everyone would suggest this is a nuclear option. It could be. Nuclear weapons could be real. I don't know. I can't find evidence to confirm that they are. I mean, everything that they claim, you know, was a nuclear explosion could have well simply been fire bombings, because there's no radiation. There's none of the stuff that they tell us should be there. So, you know, it's an open debate. So I'm not going to take either side in that. I highly doubt that they are real, but still, I can't rule it out. I mean, personally, I don't think there'll ever be a nuclear war anyway, because, you know, if radiation was real and there was fallout and all the stuff they tell us, which obviously there isn't because of, you know, the state of Hiroshima and Nagasaki today. But anyway, if any of this stuff is real, I mean, nuclear weapons destroy all business, and the world is run on business, and I don't think that would be the way they do it. I think there's better ways of doing it. But ultimately, even all the business is a fiction. I mean, that's what kind of keeps the world going. And even money is a fiction. People say Jews do what they do because they want the money. They don't care about the money. The money is used to enslave you. They look after each other. And they sure hand out lots of money to each other, because money is the medium of trade in this society that people are involved in, whereby everybody believes they have to pay to be alive. The Jews created all that and control all that, so they're happy to supply each other with everything they need in order to be able to pay to be alive, as long as you don't get too much and nobody else gets too much, because then they can't do the things that these people get away with. And the only reason they can get away with them is because most of the stuff they do costs lots of money to do, because people believe they have to pay to be alive. It's remarkable how they've put it all together. But their whole purpose is the destruction of everything that isn't related to Judaism. And they don't even care about most of the Jews. You know, they want to purify the world, and that doesn't include all Jews. I mean, even if you're a black Jew or a Chinese Jew or whatever some of these people are, you're not who is going to be saved. You're cannon fodder along with everybody else. They don't care about anybody. What they care about is the destruction of Amalek and ascending Jacob's ladder. And the people that they believe are going to be doing that, according to the Kabbalah, if you can believe what some other people say, a guy called John Birkins or something like that, was interpreting this to mean that they want the 144,000 who ascend, who in the rapture, who ascend Jacob's ladder to return to God. They suggest that all of these people will be cloned from the foreskin of their Messiah. So it's one of the things related to the removal of the foreskin. These are twisted fucking people. But that's according to John Birkins, I think his name is anyway. That's what he suggests is in the Kabbalah, and that's what the Kabbalah is rooted in. So if that's the case, then none of the Jews that are supporting Israel are going to be going anywhere anyway. They don't care about you people. They only care about the destruction of Amalek and their chosen Messiah and all that sort of stuff. See, they're doing everything they can to usher back that Messiah. So they've created this war against East, against West, and all the shit that they're doing. And they're not even supposed to have a homeland. So you're not supposed to get Israel until after the last war or some bullshit that's in their book. And but they're interpreting that as meaning greater Israel. After the war, we'll get all of it. We'll get Syria, we'll get Jordan, we'll get all the stuff that's outlined in greater Israel. They'll get everything from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is why their flag has the Star of Remphan on it and the two blue stripes, which represent the Nile and the Euphrates. That's what they want, and they will control everybody else. They will all be their slaves. This was who will build their society for them, this bland, horrible society that they want to build with all the pretty lights. They'll merge everybody together, and if there's ever a problem, well, they control all the infrastructure. They can just shut down countries, they can blow up people's pages, they can blow up their cell phones. Like I said, everything's got a lithium battery in it. It's crazy when you really step back and look at what they've done. So, acknowledging all that, well, how do you find your way out of it? What is the way out of this? Sure, we've got to deal with our politicians, because our politicians are the ones who are supporting all this, who've gone along with all this, thinking that they're going to be spared when they're not. The only way out of it is to realise what you're here for. You're here to remember who and what you are. You're here to be yourself to the greatest of that potential, whatever it is. You don't have to believe in authority. You don't have to go and fight in their wars. In Lakesh, I'm another yourself. That's the way out of this. If people could simply live like that, the whole world would change. That's the way out of the game. Even for you individually, that's the way out of the game. Like I said, no stake in the outcome. Throw yourself to the wind. This is pretty much why I've remained poor through my whole life. I still don't have anywhere to live. I'm 68 years old this month. I still don't have anywhere stable to live. I don't obviously worry about fashion or clothes or keeping the latest updates of any of that sort of shit or I just kind of bump around the place and I observe. I try to be the best I can everywhere I go. Sometimes I fail miserably at that. And sometimes I get a little withdrawn, depressed, whatever. It does happen. I'm only human. But, I don't need much. I don't eat much. I don't need much. I think a lot of people overeat and think they need a lot more than they do. I just need a roof where it doesn't rain and, access to some sort of technology so I can talk to people and do this. This is kind of my social life, talking to you guys. So, I kind of just look at the world in fascination. I really do. I find the human condition to be incredibly fascinating. For all of its flaws and all of the problems and all the stuff that we face, I still find it to be incredibly fascinating. The human drama is such an illogical thing. It's like that song by Tool, Right in Two. Have you ever heard that song? Right in Two? It's got some remarkable words in it about, like they gave us Eden and look what we've done to it. And we just divide everything in two. We divide, split everything right in two. And this is the result. We've totally lost our way, but it's through social breakdown, like I said. And when I say social and societies, I mean it's just a group of people living in the same area as each other, living in caves and being hunters and gatherers is a social thing. That's still that type of society. They know where they are, what their roots are, where they came from, what they're doing. And the type of society we had that built all of that incredible architecture through Europe and the Americas and all over the world, and it's found everywhere, and what people are calling Tartaria, the fact that it's so beautiful and it's so intricate, and it would have taken so many people so long to do, and there was such an incredible amount of artistic input into it, shows that this wasn't built by labourers who were being paid to build. This was built by people who loved to do what they do, because in those days beauty was actually seen as something functional. It had a purpose. You can't do that with people who are labourers and contractors and who are paid by the hour. You just want something functional because you don't want to pay them too much. Even when you look at the Sistine Chapel and stuff, where was it Leonardo da Vinci or someone, or Michelangelo, was just basically told by the church that he had to paint the roof. They got him because he loved to paint. He was so good at it. That's why people are good at things, because they love to do it. Of course, he probably didn't like that gig, and he was instructed to do it by the church, so he had to do it because it was the church, and so forget about paying because that's a sin against God and all that sort of crap. But people did what they did because it was art to them. They loved what they did. Even the people who built the Sistine Chapel. Sure, none of them were probably paid. It was all done because the church told them to do it. But the church looked around for people who loved their craft and so were therefore the best at it. And that's how most of our society was built back then. And we had that social cohesion connected to that architecture, connected to that time, connected to everything that it represented. Now what do we have? What do we have in our cities now? These horrible square buildings that look like nothing and go nowhere, and all of this sort of crap. Where's all this come from? What does it mean? What is our heritage to it? These buildings get knocked down every 50 years or 70 years. They rebuild them, updating, because they don't build anything to last anymore. And it gets worse and worse and worse. Now it's all plastic and it's all prefab and 3D printed and tiny homes and all sorts of crap like this, while they're blending all the culture together. Even young countries such as the United States, which is only 200 years old, 250 years old. It's not a very old culture, but it was developing its own culture. It has its own culture to a degree. I mean, we know what American culture is, that Western, you know what American culture is. Look at some of the movies. It's managed to get its culture out to the whole world and influence other cultures into becoming like that, but it isn't what it was set up to be. It was set up to be a land of freedom, a republic, a constitutional republic where everyone had inalienable rights and could be everything they ever wanted to be with no fear of repression. It's turned into this superficial adolescent culture, which then projected itself out through television to the rest of the world and caused other people to essentially lose their identity, because America lost its identity when the banking system got put in place and the mass media got put there, and all of this stuff was fed to them about what it means to be an American. people couldn't actually experience their own Americanness themselves and the connection with the land and to the people around them because they were being told what to think. I mean, sure, a lot of people still have that, but you know what I'm saying. That whole glitz and glam and all the stuff that Hollywood projects then got pushed out to the rest of the world. You go to a lot of countries and they see Hollywood movies and they think that's what America's like. And this is projected into the minds of a lot of Americans as well, you know. So the whole thing got co-opted and hijacked, and it became this like adolescent, it's like parts of America are just like a huge frat house, you know. And then that got sent to the rest of the world, and so you've got this whole frat house mentality being projected into all sorts of other cultures, which makes them open and susceptible to have the real culture, the roots of who they are, completely erased from beneath them while they're busy watching the TV and watching all the flashing lights and watching all of the social media and all the crap that they're doing. You know, Japanese culture, what it's become since it opened itself up to the West, what Chinese culture has become. You know, it's all really pretty. Some of the Chinese stuff, I mean, some of the architecture and the way the cities are laid out is very, very attractive. But again, a lot of it depends on technology. There's nothing built there out of stone, nothing that is really going to last, you know. It's all temporary housing, temporary accommodations. All of our societies are now. So again, we see a loss of social structure and we see social breakdown because, you know, if there's some sort of a cataclysm, if the power just does go off, if there's a major war, whatever it is, however they're going to stage it, flood, famine, whatever, you know, alien invasion. When this culture dies, this society dies, 1,000 years from now, there'll be nothing left. None of the buildings that they've built in New York or in China or any of these fancy glass buildings in Tel Aviv, any of this sort of stuff, none of this will be there in 1,000 years. If all the people just disappeared from the world now, there was something happened, society collapsed, there was a war, communications broke down, humanity gets reduced to a tenth of what it is or whatever, and has to build itself back up again. It'll probably take a couple of 1,000 years for that to happen. And during that time, when they come exploring these great cities, New York and the great cities in China and so many places, there'll be nothing there. Time would have eaten all of it. Everything that we've built will be erased. The only thing these people will find will be what we found. The pyramids, Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, all these old stone places. They might find the American government building, the White House or whatever. I believe it's made out of stone. There's places that they will find, but most of our cities will be completely erased. All the roads will be gone. So everything's just plastered over the top of nature. And it's built in such a way that it has to be constantly maintained. What the people of the future will find is, you know, some of the old cobblestone roads through Europe and some of the old stone walls. And a lot of the stuff that we found is what they will find. But most of our societies will be gone. Just a little blip in time. Yeah, and looking at all that, you know, it's okay. Because societies come and go. What's important is your time here, how you react to all this. I'm trying to keep you informed on what's going on in the world because ultimately we're heading to a pretty painful sort of a dystopia. It's all being done by design and our species is being wiped out. Should I really even care about that? Should I have racial pride? I think people should have racial pride. And again, that doesn't mean I'm against, you know, a man marrying a Filipino wife or you know, someone marrying a Chinese woman or a Mexican woman or anything like that. No, not at all. Like I said, it's just when it's being done on an industrial scale, it's being pushed on people deliberately in order to dilute the core of all races. It'll eventually wipe out the white race because there won't be any purebred white people left. But it's also doing the same thing with the Asian race and with the black race and with all races. It's merging them all together. Arab races, all of them. All except for the guys with small hats, who are essentially like Western European, Khazars, whatever they are. It doesn't even really matter. You can go down that rabbit hole as well. I mean, I'd like to know who they are, whether they're Khazars, whether that story has any merit to it. A lot would indicate it does, but you just don't know. You look at the stories of Shlomo Sand and some of the books that he's written about the invention of the Jewish people. There's a lot of stuff it'd be nice to know. But at the moment, it's like with Charlie Kirk, is he dead? Who did it? Whatever. It'd be nice to know. But at the moment, what's it being used for? And at the moment, as far as who they are, where they come from, what we know is that these are the most evil people on earth, and they're openly genociding the rest of the world and creating complete and total social breakdown of all cultures simultaneously around the world right now. And we are in a state of clear and present danger that needs to be dealt with. The way to deal with that is for you to discover yourself, remember who and what you are, and apply that to the situation you're in. Apply it to government. Stop giving authority to these people. Stop fighting their wars. Stop paying their taxes. Stop giving any respect at all to Donald Trump or any of these people. If you're over there fighting their wars, if you're in the army, what the fuck are you doing? When you're getting in the army, you're going over and you're going to kill Palestinian people? Forget it. You're better off going to jail than doing that. Be more honourable. Stand for something. Stand for your principles. Stand for what is right. Realise that there's one human family here of all types of diverse natures and cultures that all used to live in harmony with each other and respect each other's cultures. Even back in the 50s, the movies you'd see about the Persians and flying carpets and all that sort of shit, Abbott and Costello. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of these people back then. What happened was the media and the infiltration into US government by the people with small hats who've created this whole concept because they want to see Edom and Ishmael, the descendants of Edom and Ishmael, destroy each other for their benefit because they want the world for themselves, because they want to control everything. That's just what they do.
It's the end of days. You're going to need the iron of Esav, which represents Edom, which is the West, Europe, and the Americas, to get intermixed with Ishmael, which is basically Arabs and Muslims. How in the world was this ever going to happen if not for this refugee crisis? At the end of days, you're going to have this intermixing between Esav, Edom, which is the West, and the East, which is the Muslims and the Arabs, making this through this influx into the world. And they're going to have children, I don't want to say by the dozens, but they're going to have a far larger birth rate than the indigenous people there, and they're going to sort of conquer by number. And there are many different sources for this. One of them in Yehezkel, chapter 14, and many other sources as far as this is concerned, where it's mentioned very, very vividly what will happen to the Jews and what will happen to Yerushalayim and what will happen to the world at that time, where there will be many, many people killed and so on and so forth. So the idea of having these refugees come into Europe, it's no longer a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It's just simply fulfillment of what it was meant to be all along. This is the fulfillment of the Chazal and the prophecies. This has to happen, and this is just another sign that we are nearing, the completion of this tikkun of the entire world.
Le Mashiach viendra que quand Edom, l'Europe, la chrétienté sera totalement tombée. Donc je vous pose la question, c'est une bonne nouvelle que l'islam envahisse l'Europe? C'est une excellente nouvelle, ça annonce la venue de Mashiach. Excellente nouvelle.
Never used to be like any of that. So, we can call this out for what it is and realize what's happening. Like I said, just get all Jewish citizens out of the US government. If there's any congressman or anybody, senator or anybody of your worth at all, pass a motion to have this done. If Donald Trump means anything, he should sign an executive order to keep all dual citizens out of the US government. That would be a great thing to do, but of course he won't, because he's a puppet. He's part of the plan. He's their trump card. He's the only one that could have got away with this. Anyway, I'm babbling and babbling. But yeah, interesting times, folks. I can't really see any way of stopping what's coming, because people just aren't going to stand up. They're not going to do any of those things that I just suggested. So ultimately it comes down to you. It comes down to you living your life on a path of integrity. I mean, death's a given, doesn't matter. You know, don't succumb to evil while you're here. Even with everything I've said, I mean, I don't hate the Jews. I see them as completely misguided. I see them as completely programmed. I don't hate them for what they do. I'm disgusted and repelled by what they do. But I don't hate them because, I mean, without evil, you would never have the choice to choose good. And for the fact that evil is becoming so prevalent and so obvious and so visible in the world today, well, it's all balanced. It's always in harmony. That shows how much good is in the world as well, because all this evil, by making itself so transparent, it's causing people to have to look at the shadow. You can't avoid it now. It's right there in front of everybody. You simply can't avoid it. And really, it's about your own spiritual path. Which side of history you choose to be on. Disconnect from the system as much as you can. Live your own life. No stake in the outcome, folks. What if the people of Palestine came here to die in front of you because it would give you the opportunity to actually face the shadow in yourself, and give you the opportunity to choose between good and bad and right and wrong? And you can tell the Israelis are terrified of these people, folks. You really can. I mean, they've been bombing them for 2 years, and they still won't go. They won't give up their land. They won't stop fighting back. They have the resilience and the tenacity of a tick, folks. They really do. You should be proud of any Palestinians you know. These are some of the strongest, most heroic people I've ever seen in my life. And you can tell Israel is terrified of this, how they stand up for themselves. And again, don't believe all the propaganda that Israel is pushing out there, that Hamas is terrorizing them and Hamas still wants war with Israel and all that sort of shit. Most of these people that you see driving around on the back of trucks with completely clean uniforms are all Israelis, folks, just being done to create the propaganda that Hamas is still in control when it's not. This horse is having a great time. Just keeps following me. I guess I'm going to have to lead it back to the field. But anyway, folks, I'll try, see if this horse will follow me back. Hey, you want to come with me? Come on. I could always grab its harness, but I'll just lead it back up the road. But yeah, you know, this is, because like I said, I mean, I can't see any way of turning this around, so this is a huge test for all of us. Come on, mate, this way. Come back up and see your mum. Good boy. Yeah, you're a good boy. Crazy, folks. It's like Jeff and Lucy, only it's me with the horse. He's right here next to me. I don't know whether you can see him. There he is. Come on. This way. There's his mum up here. Come on. But yeah, no stake in the outcome, folks. You know, a lot of the stuff that's happening, you know, like people are afraid of losing what they would consider to be their security, you know, their house or their money or whatever. And sure, it's important issues that you need to be concerned about, because in a world where you need to pay to be alive, these are important assets. But like I said, I mean, I don't live anywhere. I don't have any house. I don't have much money. I don't have any of that sort of stuff. Come on. Hello. Hello. I don't have any of those sorts of things, but I can see that people would be concerned about that. But what this is really about is your soul. You know, when you consider that you are going to die one day, you can't take any of that stuff with you, any of the stuff that you thought was important that you collected along the way. You can't take any of it with you when you leave here. You know, and it's a short ride, folks. When I'm 68, I remember being in my 20s just so clearly. I've done so many things since then. It's almost like looking back at old frames of a movie. It really is. When I think about my life and all the different things that I've done, all the different places that I've been over so many years. There you go. There you go, back with Mum. And it's all like a movie, you know. But what this is about is your soul. That's what they want more than anything. And all of the stuff that you collected, you can't take any of this with you. This is all going to stay here. So, how much of your soul, yeah, and you're here for a little while, like 68 years old. I've been here 68 years, folks. It feels so quick. It's a really short ride. What's plastic surgery and shit that people have to make themselves look pretty and think that they're going to maintain their youth? No, you're not. You're going to die in a minute. That's just the way it goes, you know. So, cool, they're back together. You can't take any of that with you. So, how much of your soul are you prepared to sacrifice in order to hang on to these little personal possessions that you've got? Personally, any personal possessions that I've got, most of them are in storage back in Australia. And I've left clear instructions and I've shown him how to do it and all that sort of stuff. I mean, all of that will be for my son. If anything happens to me, that's all for my son. So, that's all good. That's all taken care of. I can't see myself using any of it anyway, so it's all for him. You know, what if you was just suddenly stripped of all your personal possessions? If something happened to the world and suddenly there was a collapse and the dollar went down and, you know, war broke out, power went off, internet goes down, whatever, cell phones don't work anymore, whatever. How equipped are you to deal with that? Are you comfortable enough in yourself to be able to simply take that in your stride and move on and do what needs to be done and look after yourself and look after your family? Donkeys, folks. We go from horses to donkeys. What a great place this is. Hey, little ones. Yeah, how prepared are you to be able to deal with that type of thing happening? That's the question. You know, are you comfortable enough in yourself? I mean, if I had to, I wouldn't enjoy it, but if I have to, I go, okay, well, shit. You know, I'm out here in the jungle and something's happened and blah, blah, blah. I guess I'm just going to have to find a cave to live in and find what fruits and berries around here are edible and what little animals I might need to trap or fish I might need to catch or whatever, or what steps I may need to take to survive. And I just go with it. Like I said, I may not enjoy it, but hey, I just do it because hey, that's what needs to happen. Most people are so fixated on society that they'll never deal with stuff like that. They'll never want to deal with stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, you just, how much of your soul are you prepared to give away? I'm just babbling and rambling, so I guess I'll just finish, folks. I'll be leaving Croatia soon. I'm going to go do a couple of things in the United States. I'm not sure how many or if any videos I'll be able to bring you while I'm there, but I'll just see what happens when I get there. Same thank yous I always give. Thank you to anybody who's ever sent me a kind email. There's a few interview requests. I've got all of these interview requests bookmarked, and I will get back to you once I'm secure in Mexico. I just have to take that as it goes, as donkey there, folks. yeah, I just get sidetracked. But yeah, thank you to anybody who sent me any kind emails, and thank you for the interview requests. I will get back to you, I promise, on that. And of course, thank you to anybody who's ever made a contribution to the website. I really do appreciate it, folks. It is the only thing that keeps me going. It's the only thing that keeps this show on the air. I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube again, same as I did the last 2 videos that I made, and just see how long it lasts. I don't know why they're letting me back on there. I mean, maybe it's data mining. Maybe they just want to find out where all the followers are on YouTube, who's going to watch the videos, what information's getting out there, what the response will be in the comments. I mean, who knows what it's all about. I don't really expect the channel to last. I think it's more of a data mining thing. I'm waiting for them to ask me for ID. Like I said, I mean, the first time I tried to upload a video to YouTube, they asked me for ID. They wanted a phone number, you know, for verification before I could actually use the channel again. But then this time, when I uploaded a video to it, they didn't ask for verification, so I just uploaded the video and I figured I'll see how it goes. I'm waiting for it to get to a point where they ask for verification again, because I had planned on using a friend's phone number, but it turned out I didn't have to, because they didn't ask for any verification at all. They just let me open my channel. Well, they let me upload to my channel, just sign in and upload. Crazy. So who knows what the intentions are, but like I said, I don't expect it to last. I will continue uploading to BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble and Vigilante TV as well. I believe 153 News is closing down as well. Bit of a shame, it was another platform. They never let me on that platform. I did open a channel there once, and they sent me an email saying, is this the real Max Igan? And I said yes. And then when I went back to sign in, it was a 404. The whole channel had been removed before I even uploaded anything to it. So I don't know what their problem was, whether they got it wrong or whatever. But yeah, I never got to use it. So that was that. But I hear it's closing down, and it's a shame. We need more video sharing platforms, because they're kind of taken over everything. They've taken over TikTok and the algorithms on X. I mean, all I've been getting on X the last 3 or 4 days is pro-Israeli propaganda. So, you know, there's no big marches and cheers for the ceasefire in Gaza, because it was never about that. It was just about hating Jews. Well, there's no big marches for the ceasefire because the ceasefire is temporary. Israel has no intentions of keeping it, as I showed you before, outlined by Beelzebub Smoker Dick, the finance minister.
Well, ceasefire isn't liberation, ceasefire isn't free Palestine, and also it feels that it was made without any Palestinian voices. So I can't say that I would love to be as celebratory as the Palestinian people are themselves in Gaza, and I believe that they must be encouraged and allowed to celebrate, of course, but I don't think it's a time for us to celebrate. I think that we have to ramp up our pressure and do more and more and more to ensure, A, that a ceasefire is lasting, but also that it meets the terms of a true free Palestine and an end to the occupation. Because, you know, I just got back from the West Bank, and the West Bank isn't Gaza. There's no Hamas in the West Bank. What I saw in the West Bank is occupation and apartheid.
As soon as the hostages are released, they're going to create a scenario whereby they have to go in there to save the people from Hamas. That's why all the propaganda about booby-trapped bombs and booby-trapped toys and, you know, booby-trapped cans of food, all the stuff that the Israelis left there that they're claiming is all being done by Hamas. That's what all this is about, folks, claiming Hamas is executing people. If any people are being executed, these would be Israelis with Hamas headbands that are going and doing all of this sort of stuff. I mean, 2 hours after the ceasefire, Israel was hitting people on the beach with tanks.
منطقة واد نعم الآن على ما يبدو قذيفة نعم قذيفة الآن على الهواء مباشرة. نرجو أن تتوقوا الحذر ونذكر بأن المكتب الإعلامي الحكومي هذه قذيفة مباشرة من الآلية الإسرائيلية.
نذكر أشرف أن المكتب الإعلامي الحكومي طلب من المواطنين عدم التوجه نحو شارعي أو من خلال شارعي الرشيد وصلاح الدين نحو مدينة غزة.
إيش اللي بيصير؟ نعم، نحن أمام تطورات حقيقة خطيرة، والقذائف تسقط بشكل مباشر من الآليات الإسرائيلية، وفعلا
Just crazy stuff. Bibi was bombing Gaza again within 2 hours of the ceasefire. So, Israel breaks all ceasefires, always has. But anyway, folks, I'm going to leave it there for now. I will bring you another video soon. There's a chance I'll be able to bring you one while I'm in the United States. It might be a sit-down video in a room somewhere. Don't know whether I'll be able to do a walk and talk. But I'll try to bring you something. Depends on what's happening in the news. But hey, enjoy the show, folks. I mean, this is an incredible time to be alive. I mean, it's really exciting, all this stuff happening. Seeing the collapse of everything. Like I said, I'm one who can kind of go with the flow, throw myself to the wind and just kind of ride it and end up wherever I end up. Whatever that is, it's just the next chapter. So it's kind of hard to put me in fear of anything. I just see it as all part of the journey. And I just want to be able to adapt to any situation. Like I've said, face infinity without flinching. The knack of being able to face with serenity odds and circumstances that are not included in your calculations. And I think we're heading into that time, folks. So yeah, that's the warrior spirit. And that's the spirit people need to adopt. And that doesn't mean standing there and fighting to the death. It means adapting yourself to any situation, any given situation at any given moment, and simply being able to adapt. The knack of facing infinity without flinching. That's the world we're heading into, folks. That's the time that it is. So yeah, enjoy the ride, because it's about to get really interesting. And with all of this stuff, even though I get tired, I get sick of doing videos and blah blah blah, I'm having a great time watching all this sort of stuff. I'm actually glad that I'm here to see it. Imagine speaking out about all this sort of stuff my whole life and then not being here for the main event. People dropping off from COVID all over the place, new COVID strain coming. Shaky peace in the Middle East, which is simply the calm before the storm that's going to bring about the entire eruption of war between East and West. Bibi just doing social media blitzes. You know, everyone hates the Jews for no reason.
It's related to an underlying hatred of Jews that permeates the centuries, unfortunately. And there are only two things that I'd say about it. It's been a constant phenomenon of Jewish life over the millennia to have these horrible, horrible lies perpetrated about Jews. These vilifications, you know, we poison the wells, we drink the children, the blood of children, and all sorts of crazy things. And that's repeated today. That's not new. And every time we had it in history, these vilifications were just preceded and were followed by horrible massacres and pogroms, culminating in the worst pogrom of them all, the Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were basically burnt alive.
Yeah, right. No reason. Just all these rumors that have come about over the centuries for no reason at all. Sure it is. But anyway, folks, I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report. It's always a pleasure to have your company. I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.